Yeah, can I get a medium deep dish? Yeah. Yeah, extra pineapple? No, hold the sauce. Okay. Okay, bye. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode. Listen, have you ever thought that somebody was judging you, watching you, monitoring your every single move? Me neither. I'm too busy worrying about more important things, like my dictatorial status in Animal Crossing New Horizons. I am currently working on rebuilding the entire Xalem film set in my upstairs room. If that's not a fourth wall break, I don't know what is. Why do I love fourth wall breaks? I'm sure you're wondering the same thing I am, aren't you? Fourth wall breaks have been around in media for a long time. In essence, it's just a skillful tactic used by directors and developers to draw viewers more and more into the story they're trying to tell. But why are we so fascinated by the idea? Most of us know how it goes. You're playing a game or watching a movie until some random character starts pounding on the camera glass screaming, "Hey you!"
Who, me?
What are you doing, man? Why haven't you liked this video yet so I can keep funding my G Fuel addiction?
Dude, I can barely fund my own addiction. And are you seriously selling yourself out right now?
No, but I'm open to the idea. This is what we refer to as a fourth wall break, when the character on screen directly addresses the audience and makes them cognizant of the fact that, yes, this is a piece of entertainment that you're currently watching.
Remember to like the video, leave a comment, share on social media, subscribe to the channel, donate to my Patreon.
Now, fourth wall breaks can be executed in a lot of different ways, whether it's a stage performer interacting with an audience or an actor talking directly to the viewer. If a piece of media is trying to make you aware to the fact that you are viewing an experience, surprise, that's a fourth wall break. Now, I feel there are some common misconceptions for what is and isn't considered a fourth wall break. Mike Myers and Dana Carvey making fun of advertisements in Wayne's World? Fourth wall break. Sans speaking directly to the player, judging their every action at the end of the game? This is definitely considered a fourth wall break. Now, Ryan Reynolds singing the Pokemon theme song in Detective Pikachu,
I know it's my destiny.
that's technically not a fourth wall break. Just because a piece of media makes some sort of reference or adds some sort of Easter egg to their story, that doesn't automatically make it a fourth wall break. Deadpool mentioning Wolverine or singing Careless Whisper isn't out of the question of the character in the Deadpool universe, but by specifically stating that he got his own movie by bribing Wolverine, that's the part that makes it a fourth wall break. By breaking the fourth wall, you are essentially tearing down the invisible barrier that separates the media, that being the piece of entertainment that you're watching, and you, the audience who is consuming this piece of media. Now, obviously, you know I'm not drinking bleach because, well, I would die. But if I were to physically show you that, yes, this is indeed water that is in this container and not actually bleach, that's when it becomes a fourth wall break, because I am physically making you a key part of this story. Please tell me that this actually... But then you get this rocky in-between, where I'm not sure if this can technically be classified as a fourth wall break or not. Is Sonic mentioning Son Amy and Sonic Boom a fourth wall break? I mean, he's not addressing the audience, but he is mentioning fanfiction that would otherwise never show up or have place in the Sonic universe. Are the Teen Titans doing joke impressions of Mark Hamill and Jared Leto considered a fourth wall break? It's kind of hard to say based off of how they're referencing it. But this brings up a moment of contention. Am I successfully implementing a fourth wall break, or am I just creating a cheeky reference that's a pile of rubbish? Now, even if I were to change the scene a little bit, like maybe I did this, or this, I'm technically still in character, and in a hypothetical situation, I haven't contacted the audience yet, so there's this gray area of whether or not this is technically considered a fourth wall break. Now, if I sit my ass on top of a fakey-jakey yoga ball and put a subscribe button right there and say, please subscribe to my damn-ass YouTube channel, that's a fourth wall break, because I'm breaking character, and I'm addressing you, the audience, to tell you that this isn't real. None of this is real. I'm actually 9S from Nier Automata. Now, obviously, without a doubt, all of these would be considered a fourth wall break. Sure, I myself am not breaking the fourth wall, but the backgrounds and environments around me are. The conventions of a normal Xalem video are being broken to somehow elicit a response from the audience, whether it be from shock or just adoration.
Hey, are you really sure you want to tell that to the viewers?
Shut the fuck up. But that doesn't answer the question to why we love fourth wall breaks. When you see Futaba call Mishima an NPC in Persona 5, not only do I perform a fourth wall break myself, but something clicks in your brain to say, wow, Why do I really like that? Now, I have done a lot of research on this topic, that being spending about 15 minutes last Saturday on Wikipedia. And I think I can safely say I figured out why people love fourth wall breaks so much, why people are so obsessed with Deltarune, Undertale, Deadpool, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Wolf of Wall Street, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Eternal Darkness, Nier Automata. To me, I've discovered two forms of fourth wall breaks, one that causes the audience to connect, and one that causes the audience to disconnect. Now, why would we purposely try to make our audience disconnect from our media? Well, that's because it leaves the audience with a sense of urgency. When people think of a fourth wall break, this is usually the most common form that people think of, pulling the audience completely apart from the environment and its surroundings to focus solely on the relationship between the character and the audience. Metal Gear Solid is probably the best example I can think of representing this. Apart from a few comedic Easter eggs Hideo likes to sprinkle throughout his media, the Metal Gear Solid series is typically more on the serious side. Now, the original Metal Gear Solid is one of the most influential games to ever exist. I promise I will die on that hill. But as soon as you mention Metal Gear Solid 1 to anybody who's played of or at least knows of the original game, their mind always goes straight to one thing.
I am Psycho Mantis.
This is Psycho Mantis. And this is the subtitle stating this is Psycho Mantis. Psycho Mantis is a trickster claiming he can read the player's mind and mess with their head. So when Psycho Mantis looks at the screen and says,
You've been playing Super Mario Sunshine, haven't you?
never heard of it. What is that, like a sponge? This is the game's way of completely putting the player in their control, throwing the player off guard by talking to them like the actual human that they are. The boss battle then proceeds with making you believe you changed the input on your TV, has you change your controller socket to different ports to deal damage. The game is actively causing you to react to the situation in real life, just as if somebody were speaking to you in person. If someone in the real world addresses you while you're playing a game, it's going to take you out of the experience, and this is perfectly exhibited here. By purposely disconnecting a viewer from the experience, it creates a longing to be attracted to the feature that much more. Another great example of this is Batman Arkham Asylum. Most of us know about the scene where the game crashes due to Scarecrow. If you don't, well, you're in too deep now. One of the main villains in the Batman universe is Scarecrow, a deranged ex-professor of psychology who uses fear and toxins to play tricks on his enemies. You can see where I'm going with this. So halfway through the game, we see Batman walking down the hallway, letting out a few coughs, and then this happens.
Let's start the party with a bang.
Are you sure there's a middle button? Again, this is a great example of the game taking back control over the player, leaving the character hopeless in its attempt to counteract the unknowingly scripted event. When a game, a movie, any sort of media fights back, that's the moment of shock, the feeling of disconnect when the player sees, wait a second, I'm playing a video game. But what about the adverse effect? What if the intent of the fourth wall break is to connect with the audience? For every one instance of a piece of media trying to break apart or separate itself from its core audience, there's probably a dozen or more times where the piece of media is trying to do the opposite and actually connect with the, I can't fucking breathe, why is this line so hard? Remember when I said that fourth wall breaks are used to connect with the audience? Well,
Hi out there!
yeah! That's a fourth wall break. Anything involving audience participation is a fourth wall break. Every soliloquy directed at the audience by looking at the camera is a fourth wall break. Anytime somebody stops the video to say, buy these stupid headphones, you piece of shit, that's a fourth wall break. I am really f***ing up any chance I have of being sponsored, aren't I? Going back to movies for a second, The Wolf of Wall Street is an excellent example of this as well. When we see Leonardo DiCaprio narrating directly into the camera, we don't actively think about the fact that he's addressing us. It seems perfectly natural within the context of the movie, like it's some sort of educational tool. That is probably not the comparison people would think I would make in this video. However, this doesn't mean that it's solely used as an educational tool. Take, for example, Until Dawn, a horror game that takes place over the course of one night where a group of teenagers have to survive until dawn. The game is paced in a way that each of its 10 chapters counts down an additional hour until dawn, but the breaks between each story introduce a character completely stripped of the narrative. It seems a little out of place at first. Dr. Hill asks you questions regarding the things you fear, your preferences towards players in the game, but nothing that he states directly affects the main progression of the game. It's simply used as a ploy to lead the player into thinking they have an extra level of control, when in reality, they fell off the mountain because they're a dumbass. This level of interactivity usually doesn't make itself apparent, but just draws us that much closer in the form of connecting to the media. Which draws us into video games, a genre in which almost every single game imaginable has some sort of fourth wall break. There's no joke here, I don't know how to transition this part. Any tutorial, any button prompt, any save file, any game over screen, by definition, should be classified as a fourth wall break. It is breaking the immersion of the game to give you instructions on how to complete the task within it, so by definition, that should be considered a fourth wall break, right? And technically, yes, this is definitely considered a fourth wall break, even though it is completely commonplace in today's video game world. As an audience, we do have a certain level of expectation from a game. We want a game to be able to explain everything thoroughly enough in a way so that we can complete the main objective and enjoy the experience. Since the game is actively asking for audience participation, being asked to execute an action on a screen is technically a fourth wall break. But of course, video games have learned how to stretch this to their absolute limit. Paper Mario is no stranger to making fun of the fact that it's a video game. In the first hour of the game, almost all of the characters acknowledge that they have no idea what the dialogue refers to when they explain new button prompts and tutorial options. What does the A button mean? Who knows? Just ask somebody in a different dimension. That's me. And this is a pretty common practice when it comes to video games. We've just become so used to seeing it that we don't truly think about it unless it's a more extreme format. Like this beaver. Conkers does this constantly, making fun of the fact that it's a cutesy character, poking fun at the completely self-aware aspect of the game. The whole style and direction of a game is just a parody of modern platformers at the time, so comedy is used as a fantastic crutch for fourth wall breaks. But you have to be careful when you're using comedy in this way. Sure, it's the most common form of fourth wall break, but it's important to keep the player interested with an engaging story and not relying on reusing the same joke over and over again. If you don't set up the world of your media properly, or you start using jokes way too repetitively, people are going to get annoyed by what you're trying to put out, and I promise you, people are going to start to get annoyed when they hear the same joke twice.
You know, he's got a point.
Undertale is iconic for its self-aware meta-narrative style humor, and it gets away with it with how it set up its world. Undertale drops you into a world where you're first introduced to a flower. This is your guide who explains to you the basic conventions of the game, and not even seconds later, the game shatters the fourth wall by trying to kill the player before the narrative has even shown any sort of gameplay at all. Then after this, the tone immediately shifts to tutorial. Tutorial. I've played this game 6 times, and I'm just now realizing what her name means. The game sets up this fantastical world that implies you shouldn't take any of this seriously. The narrative constantly pokes fun at itself, and anything serious here should be taken with a grain of salt.
This just in! I don't like this part.
What the hell are you doing? You're not supposed to be in this episode! So when the game throws the player a curveball by introducing this more serious motherly character, followed by slowly introducing this genuinely lovable cast of characters that are easy to sympathize and connect with, it makes it that much easier to fall in love with this world that Toby Fox has created. Of course, comedy might be the main way that games interact with the player, but what about horror? Earlier I spoke of urgency, how a fourth wall break can instill a sense of haste in the player. When the game challenges the actions of the real-life player, it triggers our natural fight-or-flight response, and does so much more than if it's just a difficult boss fight or a climactic chase sequence. The game has undeniably called out your reality to instill the sense of fear through interactivity. Take Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem. Take it. Come on. Take it. I don't need it anymore. It's still weird to me that this is not only an M-rated game on the GameCube, but Nintendo was the one that actively funded this. Eternal Darkness is unconventional in every sense of the format. The game is built off of a sanity meter, having the player constantly focus on staying sane or else odd happenings will start to occur in the world. Sometimes the player's HUD will start to see active changes, sometimes the game will pretend like it's turning down the TV, and the game even pretends to delete the player's save file at one point. It's actively pushing the player to its limit, doing everything it can to make the player feel uneasy and lose that comfort the game is supposed to provide.
I am starting to sound like a broken record at this point.
So what about the final type of fourth wall break? One that doesn't intend to shock the player with comedy and horror, rather make the player feel something. Games are a genre of interactivity. We're experiencing the world of a movie with direct control of the environment around us. Our actions, whether they be positive or negative, are not an accurate reflection of who we are in the real world. But what if the game makes us believe that it is?
You know, for a game called Snake Eater, it really doesn't say it anywhere on the box.
Kojima, again, is no stranger to fourth wall breaks in video games. I mean, just look at him.
That was perfect.
So when Metal Gear Solid throws the sorrow at you, it seems like a regular boss fight at first. Ghostly apparitions fill the swamp as the player treks through to encounter the boss at the end. Not a big deal, we've seen this in video games before. Until the player finds out that all the souls surrounding him in the swamp are the shadows of characters the player has killed in the game. #deep. The player didn't have to execute those actions. Hideo Kojima has always played with the idea of crafting a game in a way where you can play a far more pacifist run if you want to. Sure, the player has access to grenades and rocket launchers, but just as much as that, do they have access to tranquilizers and stealth? So did the player have to kill those people? Did the player enjoy killing those people? Does the player want to trek on in this fictional world knowing that they're deriving joy from causing harm to people?
Yes.
Danganronpa V3 plays out in a similar way. The gameplay is entirely based around executing high school students as if it was a survival-style deathmatch.
You know, just like any normal Friday night.
But every event is scripted. The final chapter of the game ends up asking one simple question. Is this entertaining to you? Do you enjoy the senseless violence, the blood and the gore? This is no longer the reality of the game you're playing. The game is questioning your reality and judging you, making you judge yourself and the actions you willingly partook in. Spec Ops: The Line does this, making the player question if their actions are truly worth it by changing the title screen as the game goes on. Detroit Become Human takes a similar approach by asking the player if they can release the AI from the restrictive chains that have kept her there since the beginning of the game.
It's kind of impressive how far we've come with video games, to the point where games can actually tap into the inner psyche of our minds and make us question what would normally be considered moral or not. But I'm also missing out on two really big titles, two games that I believe bring out this niche better than any of the other games that I've mentioned so far. And this is one of my favorite games of all time.
Everything that lives is designed to end. We are perpetually...
Damn it, I have been looking forward to talking about this game for over a year. Please, do not do this to me now!
Oh my, I can't believe you almost forgot about me!
Oh my god, video games are becoming sentient now?
How could you not mention me in your... What the hell are you doing?
What does it look like I'm doing? I'm getting on my phone so I can call my therapist. You know, he told me I was crazy and I was making up a bunch of stuff, but he has no idea what I'm about to tell him. This is some mind-boggling stuff right here.
Will you cut that out?
What the f***?
You were really going to do an episode on fourth wall breaks and you weren't even going to mention me?
Relax! I've got everything written down right here in the script, okay? So first I've got to talk about Nier Automata. You know, there's some really climactic points that a lot of people don't address when it comes to Nier Automata. Oh, I haven't even gotten my pizza delivered yet. There are some really good jokes with that one.
Are you kidding me? I created one of the most unique experiences in modern gaming. I subverted the entire horror genre. I helped pave the way for some of the most influential...
Well, that was a thing that just happened, so how about we get back to what we were discussing?
This is Nier Automata.
How dare you!
God! Whatever, it's not like showing a third comedically timed appearance.
So that's how it's gonna be, is it? Are you going to continue to avoid me for even longer than you already have?
It's honestly a personal skill of mine. I've been practicing it for a while. Wait, what do you mean?
Oh, silly, you haven't noticed yet, have you? I've been here the entire time, lurking in the background. Ever since that video where you mentioned that pitiful Sayori, I've been waiting patiently, just for the chance to be the center of your work.
I knew installing this button was a good I knew installing this button was a What the f*** is going on?
I see that you don't want to play fair. All I wanted was for you to pay attention to me, but apparently that was too much to ask.
I wasn't trying to not pay attention to you. I was just too busy not paying attention to you. Ow! Will you stop that?
You brought this upon yourself. I guess I have no other choice. I'm gonna take away the one thing you care about more than anything.
Persona 5?
No, you idiot. I'm taking your channel.
Don't you think that's kind of cliche? I mean, I get.
What was that? Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you over the sound of me not giving a shit. Anyways, I'm getting bored now, so I think that's all for today. Okay, bye-bye. Remember to tell me how much you love me in the comments. Wait a second. This isn't right.